Welcome to this week's episode of the ROYL Podcast. This week, Ryan is joined in the virtual studio by Sean Green, the frontman of the Christian rock band Behold the Beloved. Ryan and Sean talk about music, faith, and God's amazing power. All this and so much more here on this week's episode. You don't want to miss a second, so go ahead and buckle up because here we go. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. It is I, Donnie, and we have a really great show for you all. And I know why you're here, and we're going to get to that main segment in just a moment. But for those joining us for the first time, thank you so much for joining us. I know this interview with Sean today is going to be a huge blessing, help and encouragement to you. And you're going to want to listen to every single second of this special interview that Ryan did with Sean. It's really good, and it's going to be a lengthy one, as you can see by the timestamp time length of this. But every minute, every second is worth it. I'll tell you that. And I wish I was able to make it to that interview, but I was actually in a week of revival at my church, and we did some revival services. I'm going to talk about that eventually here on the podcast and just what revival is, what it looks like, and what I experienced with revival at my church. And it's awesome, and just is neat to see the Lord work through our guest speaker that we had. His name's Tom Wagner, and God just worked in a great, mighty way. So we'll talk about that on another episode. I don't want to belabor the point because of the length of this interview. But for our word from the Word this week, what I'm going to do through the month of November is go through some verses talking about giving thanks. And as we know, this month is month of Thanksgiving. So we're going to look what Scripture has to say about being thankful and giving thanks to God for what He's done in our lives. And next week here on the podcast, actually 2 weeks, I'm sorry. In 2 weeks, we'll be talking about this topic of Thanksgiving in depth, the history of it, and looking to Scripture about being thankful and giving thanks to God. So stay tuned for that, and we'll talk about some more news here in just a moment. But for this week's word from the Word, we're going to look in the book of Psalms. Psalms chapter 118, verse 1. It says, "O give thanks unto the Lord, for He is good, because His mercy endureth forever." And it's a short verse, but a very true verse. And as I was looking through this week's word from the Word and just getting a thought together for what to talk about this verse, it's plain and simple. Give thanks unto the Lord, for He is good. And I can go on just talking about the goodness of God in my life and seeing Him work in ways that I could not help myself, and just seeing God work in great and mighty ways, both out of the blue and both when I'm trusting in His timetable. But there's so much to give thanks to God for. And as we see, as this verse wraps up here, what the psalmist says, because His mercy endureth forever. His mercy and His grace, God's riches at Christ's expense, His mercy towards us, it's unbelievable, unmatchable. And I'm so thankful for that. And I know all of us could go around the table and just share what God has done in our lives as believers. And for those who are not believers, the first thing that God can do in your life that you would ultimately give Him thanks for, and even as Christians, the number one thing we should be thankful for is our salvation. And for those who don't know Jesus Christ, their Savior, that is the best decision you will ever make, knowing Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. And this Thanksgiving, you can give thanks to Him for that. And if you have questions about that and want to know how you can be sure, that you can have Jesus Christ as your Savior and have Him be the Lord of your life, you can visit our website, ROYLifeMinistries.com. And we have a page that walks you straight through what Scripture has to say about salvation. And you can also send us a message at the website, ROYLifeMinistries.com. You can visit us on our social media on Facebook, Twitter. We're not as active on there, but you can find us on Threads. And you can also text us at the Right of Your Life hotline, as we like to call it. It is 513-285-8319. And we'll mention that again later on. But back to our verse here. We need to give thanks to God for His mercy, His help, and His grace, and His salvation that He offers. He is good. So, give thanks unto the Lord, for He is good, because His mercy endureth forever. It's never ending. And His mercies are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. So, remember that verse this week, to give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His mercy endureth forever. So that is our word from the Word for this week. And like I said, we'll continue this theme over the next few weeks and as we wrap up this season of the podcast. So, and I think that's a good segue into our news for this week. And I don't want to talk too much about our news just so we can get into our main segment for this week, but some things to notice here. We do have some new merch in our RivalryLifeShop.com. We have some Christmas merch that we're rolling out here, so check that out. We have 2 new designs this past week. We may have 1 or 2 this week, so stay tuned for that. Check our socials for that as well. Our podcast, you are listening to one of our final episodes of this season, and we went out with a bang. So today we have our interview with Sean. Next week, we're still finalizing that episode. You don't want to miss it. And the week after that, we're talking about Thanksgiving, what Scripture has to say about it, and then wrapping up the season with Extreme Thrills. So Derek and Kara Abbey will be joining us in the virtual studio for that one. You do not want to miss it. So, and like I said in the beginning, if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, welcome. And be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow along for this podcast. We hope it's a blessing and encouragement to you, and you can go back to some of our previous episodes with some of our awesome guests. We've had a bunch of good guests this season, and it just keeps getting better, and next season is going to be even better too. So we had, going through these really quick, we had Justin Risley, the author of Chasing Roller Coasters, Mike Basco, who is a young man in college studying to be a Christian radio personnel. We had Kate Stanford of a new up-and-coming Christian artist, Zach Glaros of Sir Henry's Haunted Trail in Plant City, Florida, Larry and Jean Lyons, and I think that was all of them. I'm sure I'm missing some, but those were Undaunted Pursuit. Undaunted Pursuit podcast. We were talking with Aaron and Marshall. Really great episode. And I think that is all of them. I think I went over everyone we've had, but check those out. And I know those will be a blessing and encouragement to you, so check that out. And to be up to date on the latest news with Thrive Your Life Ministries, go ahead and check out our social medias. And again, that's on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and our website, RivalryLifeMinistries.com. So all this and so much more, check it out there. Okay. And I know why you all are here today, and that's for our interview with Sean Green. So again, Ryan's going to take the wheel on this one. So go ahead and buckle up, because this is going to be a fun ride, y'all. And we know this will be something that you want to just remove any distractions from this episode. Sit back and listen to what they have to talk about. And when I listen to it, man, it's good stuff. So without further delay, let's go ahead and head into the virtual studio with Ryan and Sean from Behold the Beloved. Enjoy.
Yo, what is up, guys? It's Ryan from the Right of Your Life show / podcast. And when you think about Christian rock, or if you're a fan of Christian rock like I am, you think of bands like Skillet, maybe Red, 1,000 Foot Crutch. but sometimes we don't hear about some of those smaller bands. And today we're going to feature a guest that will showcase just that. Today I have Sean Green from a band called Behold the Beloved. They're one of my favorite bands I've ever got to work with as a photographer, and they're just a whole lot of fun. And before I say too much, let's just introduce Sean and get this show on the road. So Sean, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Awesome. I'm
Good.
super excited for this interview. As I just said,
Same.
having someone from the Christian rock scene, which is a scene I'm very close to, for some almost like family, it's just going to be great. And though this is a roller coaster crowd, I'm excited to get some Christian rock exposure on here. But the first thing we usually do with our guests is just give a little bit of a brief background. So like maybe not go with full depth testimony, but just a little bit about yourself, how you found the Lord, and a little bit of upbringing.
Yeah, I was actually born in Canada, and grew up in a kind of a rough childhood, with like an abusive dad and a loving mom, and so we actually moved here when I was like 6, and it was a way for my mom to kind of help me out. And but from 6 to like age 9, or when I was born to age 9, I never ever seen a church, never knew anything of who God was, and it was a youth center here where I'm in Pennsylvania that I got to go to first time, and you walk in there and they have this huge gym, right? And they're playing dodgeball. When I was a kid, they called it bombardment. So I'm just like ruthless aggression, just pegging people with these dodgeballs. I'm like, this is awesome. And then they bring you downstairs and they tell you who God is, and they kind of read scripture, right? And so that was my introduction to who God was. But from a background of not really having a dad around, it was like so easy and so appealing to me to just gravitate towards it. And, I got saved when I was 10, but, you still go through school life and the pressures there. And so I went through a series of, bad friends, bad relationships, drugs, parties, all that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I met an actual youth group, when I was, I don't even know, 14 or so, maybe 15, to where like really, God really got a hold of my heart and really opened my eyes to the relationship side of Christ, more than just the religion. And so, I still fall and I still make mistakes like anybody else does, but I really believe like I definitely have my eyes fixed on what God has for me, and just every day is a new journey. And now I'm married to a wonderful woman, and I have an incredible son and a band who sometimes loves me. No.
That's awesome. I actually, to be honest with you guys, a lot of that information was new to my ears too. So as I try and conduct this interview, I'm also processing that all. Maybe we'll rehash some of that. I mean,
Yeah.
Hey, if we take too much time, maybe we can rehash some of that in a future episode too. But
Whatever you want to do, man, I'm down.
But man, that is awesome to hear that God is working in your life. I mean, has worked and is continuing to, because He is faithful.
Mm-hmm.
And it is nice to hear about all those things. But we're going to transition. And those who are familiar with the podcast know when I do things, I like to talk about a little bit of, I guess, keep it within the realms of like, what do you do? How do you operate? And then we transition into how does God work through this?
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to go with that. I don't really know how you can pass a baton off a testimony like that, but here we go. But hey, my next question was going to be, what was your favorite book of the Bible? I know that's pretty random, but
I'm a story guy. So Second Kings, I believe it's Second Kings. I might butcher this. It's first or second. I'm pretty sure it's Second Kings. Was probably one of my favorites just because I love reading the story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal, and just seeing God work in that. And sometimes I like to read that and feel like, yeah, God shows His power, God shows His love, but then God shows His how funny He is, like just like showing it to these Baals, like, oh yeah, working through Elijah, and Elijah's like, oh yeah, talk to your God, like tell him to do this, tell him to do that. Oh, nothing's happening, kind of thing. So I don't know. I always look at it as a comedy too, but it's probably one of my favorite stories. So then 4, I would say one of my favorite books. But
yeah, that is the one. That's one of the few books I haven't got around to yet. I'm more of. It's not that I don't know the Old Testament, but I'm well more rooted in the New Testament.
Oh yeah,
and that may be just a difference in age here too. Me being 23 years old, saved at 16, still working through it. But with that, I was going to follow that question up with, what is your favorite verse or passage?
Man, we've been getting this a lot at shows and people asking, and I am like a terrible person when it comes to memory, so I'm going to bring it up. And I'm used to one to say that I'm not into favorite verses because, like I said before, I'm just a story person. But James chapter 1, 2-4 is probably one of the verses that lately, whoa, my screen just went berserk. And I want to quote it right now, and I can't, and now I'm going to look it up because I want to say it. But we had somebody basically speak, and here it says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. So yeah, just to stay strong and know that no matter what you're going through, like that God's in control and that he will work through you and get you through it. So it's been one that is it's becoming my favorite, and it's something I'm working towards memorizing. Maybe I should just put it on my forehead or something.
Hey man, I am not much better at memorization than you are, so that is totally okay. God gave his Bibles for a reason, and that's why we read them. But it is great to memorize it. So my next question was going to be, what got you into music?
I wanted to belong to something. Like, to be honest, like growing up in school, I wasn't like the most popular person. And I had like a desire in the very beginning to prove to people that I had worth in my life, that I was worthy of something. And when I was being homeschooled, and when I found this youth group that I've been part of, I started playing like bass guitar, which is whatever. I didn't really know how to play, and one of the guys kind of taught me, and it was just playing on the floats for like parades and youth group. And then I had a lot of time on my hands, so I would play acoustic guitar, and I taught myself that, and I taught myself piano and these different things. So it started just wanting to show people that I could do something and that I was worth something. But then it slowly started realizing, oh, this is actually a gift that God's given to me and wants to use me in. And then that drove me to do more. That drove me to be like, I want to be like your vessel. I want to like play these instruments. And then I found my love for worship and found my love for seeing people just like getting into worship the same way that I do. So when I'm like playing and I'm worshiping, to see people really fall to their knees or just sing out to him, really lit a fire in my heart. So to pursue music from there on out was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this because I know God has called me to it, and I'm going to do this because I love it, and I have a gift for it. So I don't want to waste that away because I'm not good at fixing cars. So
neither am I. So I feel you there. I mean, for me, it definitely wasn't music. If I had $1 for every time I'd watch a what's his name? There's a guitar teacher. I can't think of his name. Marty Schwartz. That's his name. And he's a guitar teacher, and he does all these videos for free on YouTube. And I couldn't even get like lesson 1 down. Like anything he did, my hands did the opposite.
Dude, so I'm right there with you.
I was done with it. I listened to like, Van Halen and Kiss and AC/DC and a lot of classic rock bands growing up, and I wanted to be the next Van Halen, and I couldn't get 3 chords down. So God showed me the hard way that music wasn't for me, and that's how I found cameras. But it's funny that God, he'll just give us things before we even know what they're there for sometimes. And, for me, I found my love for cameras after I found Jesus. Now, for you, it kind of worked backwards, but it doesn't change the fact that I didn't know that God was going to call me into using my cameras towards ministry. Yeah. That was the part that, God had to do. But we can go on about that subject for hours. This is kind of a nice transition. So throughout that whole process, where did you pick up singing, and how long have you been singing?
Oh, man. That's a really good question. Like, I remember, like, in 4th grade, I was in chorus, so maybe it starts there. But I don't know, you just sing to, like, you like music, and you love music, and then you just sing to the music. And I just found out that, like, I would say in the beginning, I was an imitation singer. Like, I didn't have, like, the ability to just sing, but I had the ability to hear what another vocalist was saying and kind of match that or close to match that on their own song. But then, like, when you start leading worship and all that, you kind of just develop your own and figure out what your own voice is and what you can do. And then you kind of just, the more you do it, is practice and you get better. And then you hit puberty and then you have to, like, almost start over. And and then you go from, like, doing worship music to doing rock music. So then you have to train your voice in a different way. And then now you're running around on stage. So now you need more stamina. But yeah, I never thought this is where I would be, like, a lead singer. I would have rather been a guitar player, but I can't play guitar. I can play acoustic, but I can't. Electric guitar is like another animal. And thought I'd play drums, but I actually started on drums in this band when we first started. I did that for a year, but then when the lead singer left, I was like, well, I lead worship, I can sing. And yeah, it's just kind of been like a vocal journey for me. But I don't know. I love to worship. So in order to worship, I feel like I need to sing. So you just kind of roll with it.
Wow. Okay. Before I ask my next question, so you're not the original singer of Behold the Beloved?
No. Well, okay. Yeah. No, I'm not. No. So when we started about 10, it's almost been 10 years now. We were called Beyond a Call, and it was a band it was like a family band. They had one more show as a youth conference in New Jersey, but they were kind of splitting up. So I got hired in as drums. Jeff already helped here and there on electric guitar, and then there was other members. And after that, we decided to keep. God had something going. We wanted to keep going, so we revamped it, and we then called ourselves Behold the Beloved. And we did that for about a year, and then the lead singer left, and me and Jeff Lehman, on my lead electric guitar player, we were the ones that, like, really prayed, like, we feel like God has something for this. And I said, well, I'll get off drums, I'll lead sing, and we'll find a new drummer and new band members. And yeah, so probably the past 9 years I've been lead singing on this. Yeah.
Wow. There's so many things I want to say back to that. I guess the first thing would be, for context, these guys have 2 albums out, right? At least that are out to the public right now.
We have 2 full-length records, and then an acoustic EP, and then, like, an old EP. We have 2 old EPs, one with the old lead singer, and then the Sing It Loud EP was when I jumped on. Yeah.
I need to go back and listen to the EPs because that's...
Don't.
Oh, goodness. I know how it feels, man. Old videos of mine are terrible, too. But, when you... I'll have to, because I am curious how it sounds with a different voice. But I did not know any of this until tonight, so I'm shocked and happy to learn all this history and information. The other thing I would ask, too, going kind of piggybacking off of what we were talking about before, you picked up on the instruments, and I'm sure you had some help here and there, but for the most part, it was self-taught. Was it the same way with singing? Like, did you ever take vocal lessons at any point?
No. My vocal lessons were just the music I'd listen to and try to match that. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyone who has even listened to 2 of your songs would know that your voice is very unique, and it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. You have a very unique voice.
Thank you.
And I love listening to it. gives character to the band and the music itself. And that just astonishes me that you can do all those things predominantly self-taught, especially singing. Because if I could self-teach myself how to sing, I'd totally be doing it. But guess what? I wouldn't be doing myself any favors either.
It's also one of those things that, like, it's 100% a God thing. Like, to be honest, Ryan, like, there was a point a couple years ago I was like, just on the side hobby, I wanted to do like photography stuff, and so I had like a camera, and because I love photography, and you do an incredible job, and we see other camera people photographers who do an incredible job for us. Like, man, I want to try to get into it, but after I take the pictures, I don't know what I'm doing, and then somebody's trying to tell me these different settings. I'm like, can I just like press the button and then go edit? And then I just can't. And it's not a gift that's put into me. So yeah, it's the same thing with vocal. I wouldn't have thought it's a God gift kind of thing. And I would love to be a photographer like you guys, but it's just not like that level gift has been instilled in me.
It takes time. I didn't learn it overnight. A lot of things I had to learn slowly but surely over the past few years. I've been taking photos for 30 years. Before that, I was actually just a video guy, for your information. But well, I appreciate that. It's so weird. Like, I just felt like I don't know how to put this into words, but I feel like our like childhood dreams just like swapped. Like, you were like the aspiring photographer, I was the aspiring musician, and we're like in each other's shoes. It's so weird.
Did you want to be a veterinarian when you were a kid?
No, but I do love animals.
No. Okay. Yeah, I want to be a veterinarian. No, I wasn't going to school for that. I'll just love animals.
Dang. I don't know if you got that too, but oh my goodness. But okay, so this is might shock you that I actually remembered this, but I remember we were at a protest concert. Actually, it was the final show of the goodness gracious, it was the Pokemon tour, the Gotta Rock 'Em All.
The Gotta Rock 'Em All tour.
So for those of you guys that don't know Christian rock, I'm going to speak it anyway. It was Behold the Beloved opening the show. It was Marshall from Relentless Flood, and Dylan was his drummer, and Donovan from Set for the Fall was filling in for him. So you had Relentless Flood, and then you had the protest headlining. And we'll delve into this a little bit. Christian rock right now is, unless you're skilled, it's pretty small scale. So it's a lot of fun, and because of that, it's very subjective subject, but I think the smaller shows are a lot of fun because you get to be intimate with the bandmates, and you get to really get to know the people on stage. And, as a photographer that night, I got to come backstage, and I promise I'm going somewhere with this. That is when, like, the week before, we had just, like, we met. We really didn't talk long because I'm like, hey, we're going to have all day next week, so I'm going to get home. It's a work night, whatever. So this was the next week, and I remember we were sitting there talking with my girlfriend, who, by the way, this is her first Christian rock show and our first date. So that was
I remember that.
That was a crazy day. So we're talking about something, and I don't remember how this conversation came up, but it was either her or yourself that mentioned something about Sights and Sounds, I believe was its name. And it was like a musical program, I think.
Sight and Sound, yeah.
Yeah. So how involved were you in that? Were you involved in that?
Like 2009 or something. I worked there for a year. It was like right before the economy like blew up and went to the crapshoot, and they had to like lay off a bunch of workers from both sites. They have one in Branson, Missouri, and one here in PA, in Lancaster County, where I'm from. So yeah, I worked for that for a year. So I did one full show. They did when that was their first year. They did in the beginning. So yeah.
Okay, so like, what kind of work did you do for that? Did you was it musical or more just on the production
side? I would
side?
love to say I was one of the singing angels, but I wasn't. No, I worked I was they call it on deck. So I was one of the ones dressed in all black behind every set piece that they're moving throughout the whole show as it's going on. I'm moving it in the dark. I'm setting it in place. I fractured my wrist at one point to where I got put in this place called a den, and it's where all the audio things are. So I'm listening to every person with a headset, making sure they're at the right place. It was very interesting. I have a dude jumping in my lap who's playing Adam, and I'm supposed to dress him in leaves. It was very awkward at some points.
I mean, that is a pretty cool experience, though, to have, especially, being involved with, obviously music, but even any level of production, you at least have that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but yeah, that is pretty cool. So yeah, the transition from that, we're talking about music, and the one thing that struck out to me is you said you were an imitation singer. And I think anyone like me who's a non-musician is definitely an imitation singer. Who are your biggest inspirations? I don't know whether you want to say just vocally or bands in general. Anyone stick out?
Oh, man. Like, I've gone through so many different styles of music growing up. But, like, I feel like when I really decided music was my thing, I don't know if I set vocalists. There's incredible vocalists like Kevin Young, a disciple. He's got an insane vocal. Marshall from Relentless Flood is an insane vocalist. Micah, John Micah from Cutlass, insane vocalist. So I admire some vocalists, but more so bands growing up. Jesus Culture would be something that I really gravitated to kind of hone in on stylistic, how I'm gonna represent my vocal cords. And but yeah, going from there to Disciple, Skillet, and all those peeps, it's basically everybody in our genre right now I respect a lot. Growing up, and I dabbled into older music when I was younger. That is not the greatest music, but it still teaches you musical things. If you can really just get rid of lyric stuff that is garbage, and just remembering some melody stuff to recreate now. Grew up listening to Nickelback, who, if you go back and listen to Nickelback, it's they're way ahead of their time, and people hate on them, and that's fine, but they were so ahead of their time that their music still holds up now.
They're just one of those bands where the songs that hit, and the songs that miss really miss.
They were all in or not there at all.
I will piggyback off you. I do like some Nickelback songs, but yeah, I mean, I forget if I mentioned this during the recording earlier or not, but I grew up, and obviously we just talked about this before. My dream of becoming a musician, guitarist of some sort, obviously did not happen, but I have to credit Eddie Van Halen, Ace Frehley of Kiss, and I guess I would say Angus Young of AC/DC for even inspiring me to pick up a guitar. I would not have even touched a guitar. I would have had no interest if it wasn't for those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, down the road, obviously, I found more inspirations too, like Andrew Stanton of Disciple. That guy is a beast at guitar.
Yeah, he's a monster.
I mean, Sarge, Adam Sadler from The Protest, amazing guitarist.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, again, getting to see those guys live up close, that's a pretty cool experience. Just saying. Yeah. I mean, even your own guitarists. You guys have great guitarists in your band. But
yeah, I'm very, very blessed to have those guys around me. No, I'm right there with you. I did the same thing with Kevin Young, a disciple. He has inspired me to not just be a vocalist, but also to represent Christ and really bring the word on stage. He set that tone for a lot of Christian rock bands. If you go to shows, you see at our the Protester and all that stuff. At least now, every Christian rock, some do longer than others, some do more preaching, whatever. There's always a time where, okay, hey, right in the middle of the set here, we want to make sure that we have fun tonight, but we bring the word. So that all comes from Kevin, and then from Kevin, he got it from he was inspired by Petra and White Cross and Striper, and so it's just a domino effect.
it's so awesome because, obviously I got none of the musical inspiration, or, well, sort of got the inspiration, but the talent, I picked up nothing from these bands. But when it comes to doing a ministry of my own, whether it be through my cameras or my roller coaster passion, whichever brand it would be, I think I'm associated with 3 different brands now. The one thing stays consistent is I do it for one man, and that is Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be lying to you. Christian Coasters wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Skillet. I mean, watching John Cooper go out, and I love what Kevin does. He's amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, you couldn't overstate it anymore. He's like a pastor and a lead singer. I mean, the man probably could be a pastor if he wanted to.
Absolutely.
And his heart's in the right place. I've had the privilege of meeting him several times. Great guy. But back to Cooper, love him or hate him, whatever you think about their music, this guy is objectively the biggest Christian rock, I would say star, loosely, because we don't want to call him an idol. He's not.
Yeah.
But he is a rock star in earthly terms. And he's the biggest. I mean, you don't get bigger than Skillet in Christian rock. And it's funny because if you really look at their history, they started small, and they really were about, the size of your band, maybe a little bit bigger, for about better half of 10 years. And it wasn't until Collide came out where they started to gain some traction. And then, obviously, Comatose really blew him out of the water, and Awake and the Synths releases. And, as they got bigger, his heart for the Lord never changed. Like, he kept on going out there on stage and preaching the gospel at every single show. And I have so much respect for him. I finally got to meet him for 2 seconds last summer, actually this year. And what an honor. And all that to say, it's nice to see that we're all inspired by other people, and that God can use those people to inspire people to do ministry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you will go on to inspire other people, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And it's happened. I mean, if you look at the history, I know I talked about this off air with you. Right of Your Life Ministries, and I'm not just saying this to put myself on a pedestal. Donnie will testify himself. It came to be because of Christian Coasters. It was his inspiration. And then I got to be a part of it. So it's just this beautiful thing that God has done here.
Mm-hmm. That's
I
awesome.
hope you guys have been able to follow along with this chain reaction of inspirations. But yeah. Okay. So I think we answered this question earlier, but we said Behold the Beloved's been together for 9-10 years, right?
9 or 10, yeah.
All right. And I mean, we got the history of that, so we kind of don't need to rehash that too much. So, I mean, here's a good one. I know you talked about coming up with a new name after I guess we'll call it a youth band. They're almost youth band, ministry band, I guess we'll call it. How did you guys come up with the name specifically Behold the Beloved?
Yeah. Well, picking a band name is serious. Like, it's a serious job, and you want to sound really cool. Like, we got together as a band. We're like, let's call ourselves Crimson Tide, and like all these, trying to find cool, like, because we were all rockers at the time, but really the only thing we were planning on doing is playing at youth shows, playing for youth groups and churches, and we didn't even know we were going to be like a full out rock band. But we still liked rock, so we're like, let's think of these cool names, and we couldn't come up with anything, and we're like, you know what, this is God's band, this is God's ministry, and if we really want to thrive and walk through doors that he's going to open from the very start, we need to just give it to him and not take any of it for ourselves, and that has to start with the name. So we're like, let's just pray about it and see what happens. And I was driving in my car one day, and the song came to mind. It was like, I am my beloved and he is mine, and his banner over me is love. It's like a worship song. And I was like, I am my beloved and he is mine. And so he is our beloved. And I was like, how can we just like draw attention to, I love like, he's my beloved. And then I told the guys about it, and they're like, what if we're just like behold, like just like, not just like look, but behold. And that's almost like raising him up and like fixing your eyes on him. So behold the beloved. So like every time we are announced on stage, it's not look at us, here we come. It's look at Christ, like behold the beloved. And we're like, it's a mouthful, but you know what? It just felt right. And so we roll with it.
I like it. I've heard, I mean, I'm not saying yours is bad, but I've heard many pretty questionable band names. So that actually makes sense. I don't find it to be a mouthful at all. In fact, I also like that it's easily abbreviatable.
Yeah,
Is
abbreviated BTB.
Yeah, BTB.
Yeah.
In fact, as I'm reading all these questions, I have BTB. But yeah, I love that story. And that kind of it almost reminds me of Toby Mac. If you ever go see his concerts, he doesn't always perform this song, but he released this song off of I forget the name of the album for some reason, but it's the 2015 album with all the hits on K-Love. And he's got a song on there called Steal My Show. And the entire song is literally about, like, it is a prayer to God just saying, hey, look, these shows and all these instruments and the lights, everything, it's all cool, but it means nothing without you, Jesus.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you want to steal my show, sit back and watch it go. I'll watch you take it away. I probably just messed up the lyrics. Tells you how bad I am with memory.
You're good.
But,
yeah. I remember that song. It was a good song. It's a good song.
And I kind of get that same vibe here. It's just like, behold the beloved every single time. And that's what I really like about the name. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. The other thing, it's funny about that word behold. Of all things, it made me think of, I don't know, were you a SpongeBob guy? Did you watch?
I'm not a SpongeBob guy. I mean, I've seen some episodes, but I'm not like one of those diehard fans.
You're probably not going to know what I'm talking about, but I'm just going to go on a quick spiel.
No, go for it.
And it's funny that behold is such a powerful word that even in a cartoon, like the implication it was used in the SpongeBob movie was to show Neptune's crown, which we ironically found out was be missing, which is the whole plot of the movie. But it's still funny to hear the word behold and watch everyone, even in a cartoon, just instantly draw direction. I have never once heard the name, or I don't know what you'd call it, the word behold, and it not been all direction towards one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's my little 2 cents on it. I know I sound like a philosopher here, but...
a SpongeBob enthusiast.
So, I know we kind of talked about the history of the band and how long you've been around, and you know, you just mentioned that you weren't sure if you were going to get into rock, or you didn't know that yet.
Mm-hmm.
What did drive you into Christian rock, especially and I hate to say this, but I'm just going to tell it how it is. Christian rock overall in the last, I'd just say decade, it's not been looking real good.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly decline. Most shows you show up to anymore, if it's not some festival, it's probably going to have anywhere from 10 to 50 or maybe 50 to 100 people. It's tough. And I applaud you guys for being able to do so. But what really drove you into doing Christian rock specifically?
I mean, obviously, it's obviously God's direction. But like, that's the cheap answer, I guess I could have said. Like, anybody could say that. No, we have a radio station here where we're from, WJTL. And there's a guy called John Safiri who does some sort of rock show. They also run like one of the best venues in the country called the Junction Center, which we're playing at this Friday. So anyway, but and we started writing our first record and came up with a single, Remedy, and we sent it to him just to check out. And we were never on the radio or anything like that. And when he got it, he couldn't believe that around this town he finally found a Christian rock band from local. So that first record, our Saints Row record, was kind of like on the edge of rock, but not all the way there. We were still finding our sound. But with that mixed with going through John and then him pushing us on the radio, promoting us. Then we're doing more shows, but all these shows we're booking are with artists who are way harder than us that we couldn't believe that we're actually playing with. We're just like, I think we're doing this. Like, our fan base is growing, and our fan base is the fans from these hard rockers. I think we're going to go harder. Like, I think we're just going to keep going. So we didn't like try to go hard. We just like, let's just play what we want to play and what we like and what we enjoy, and we know that the listener will enjoy. And that just turned into harder rock than like doing worship covers for youth groups. You know what I mean? Now we still do worship covers. Every time we release a record, we do one cover. That's just a little harder and changed up from the original. But yeah, it was just a progression. Like, we weren't trying to be harder. We just wanted finding our sound and what we were comfortable doing. Yeah, and just turned into Christian rock.
And it makes sense now that you word it, because when I first heard of Behold the Beloved, I'm not going to lie to you, I had a friend of mine constantly, I mean, for the better half of maybe 6 months, just constantly rave about Behold the Beloved. And me knowing the state of Christian rock and that it was in, I was like, I don't know. I mean, Christian rock's been a little rough recently, and I was hesitant, to be honest. And you'll laugh when I tell you this. What did me in was when he told me, Kevin Young's on one of their songs. And I was like, no, shut up.
That was the smartest move we ever did.
This is what happened. I went back and I listened to that first album. I actually listened to the first one before. I don't know how I did it. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was a God thing. Listened to the whole thing, and I'm like, I don't really know how this qualifies as Christian rock, but I like it. Mm-hmm. And then I texted him, I'm like, hey, that album's really good, but I thought you told me Kevin was on there. So he's like, and he, I don't remember his exact words. He's like, no, dummy, you need to listen to the new album. I'm like, oh, you mean to tell me the old one popped up? Oh, okay. So I go back, I listen to the new album, and it's just, let me be the first to say it. I'm not the first, but I'm going to pretend like I am. It is, in my mind, a masterpiece.
Thanks, man.
And I'm just giving you my raw Ryan opinion. I know the Christian rock scene, there's a lot of low budget. It's a tough crowd right now. As we just stated, it's low crowd. Some of the production quality from some of my favorite bands has been hit and miss for the past several years. And knowing all this and given you guys this age in the scene, you guys truly blew me away. That last album, the production was top notch. I mean, in my opinion, I can play it in my car, my headphones, my wireless speaker. It still sounds fabulous no matter what I put it in. The guitars, the vocals, the drums, everything. It's just, it's a masterpiece. And what really blew me away was, for people listening to this podcast, you might not know the music. Obviously, you've learned that this guy has a heart for Christ, and he represents the rest of the band. I can speak on behalf of them. They are just the same, all on fire for the Lord. I've been backstage with them. I've heard them literally witness to people. It's amazing. And the one thing that really blew me away was not just like, wow, these are really powerful lyrics that take me back to disciple type lyrics where they're just explicitly Christian. The music quality was there. And the guitar work, like most modern rock you hear, it's mostly riffs and breakdowns and, maybe a few little guitar licks here and there. But for the most part, it's not really that old school classic rock feeling you get where you get a lot of guitar solos. Not this album. You get tons of guitar solos. It's just, even the riffs, like it somehow feels classic and modern at the same time. And
yeah.
All that combined with the message of hope through Jesus Christ, chef's kiss, man. It's probably my favorite album.
Thanks, man.
And I cannot wait to hear the new ones. I know Silver and Gold was the new single?
Silver and Gold was a new single. It was actually almost going to be a part of the record, but just didn't fit with the other songs. So we released it as a single, and then we actually hid it in our acoustic EP. It's not listed on the back of it, but if you put the CD in, you get an extra track.
Okay, I was about to say, because I'm like, I don't remember that streaming it, but no, but that is another great song. You guys are off to something good, and
Thanks, man.
And the only reason I'm going to say something is because I pay attention to your social medias. You guys are working on some new music, aren't you?
We are. Yeah, lately, we've actually been on the road and festivals. We've been testing out a song that we just recorded. That'll be our next single. It'll be the first single that will be on the new record that we're working on. And so that one's called Darker Than Night. So that one will be released probably January or February. And that will hopefully start a domino effect of maybe 2 more singles after that. And then by then the record should be hopefully all done. But yeah, we have a lot of work ahead of us. At the weekend after Thanksgiving, we're going to be in Nashville with Josiah and Andrew. We're writing 2 songs with them and recording with Josiah. So little, not disciple flair, but, co-writing with those guys will give a little different edge, some freshness, but you're still going to get the old school, like what you want with BTB. You're going to get the unapologetic biblical lyrics and all the guitar riffs and everything else. You just wanted more brains, you know what I mean, in the whole scenario for 2 songs just to see what happens. So,
and hey, those are 2 guys. Now, though I might not be a musician by title, I've listened to enough music and I've been around the block a few times with the music scene to know how things work. And Andrew and Josiah both are very, very, very brilliant musicians. And a lot of people don't realize, like, I used to think like it was all about just, how well you played your instruments, how well you sang, and obviously playing the shows live. But I couldn't have been any more wrong. A lot of your battle is how you record and produce your music. And these 2 guys are geniuses, in my opinion. I mean, these 2 minds are probably keeping, everyone below Skillet alive. I mean, they're just that talented.
mm-hmm.
And they've been working on a lot of stuff. And I've liked everything they've touched. So, not to mention both are guitar wizards. In fact, we're going a little rabbit trail here, but Andrew has a studio called Dive Bomb Studios, and Josiah has a studio called The Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess when you combine the 2, you get Dive Bomb Ranch. But
and I love ranch, and I would dive bomb into a ranch so fast.
But where I'm going with this, to piggyback off of what Sean was saying, yes, that you should be excited. The one thing I would say, I mean, not that I'm one to give a musician advice, but don't rush it. Just take your time. Because I will wait. I will wait. And I know it's going to be great when God says it's time to release.
Yeah, and I think we found that from the first to second record. Like our first record, we tried to rush because we got the single and then we saw some like pickup of like people actually getting interested, and we kind of rushed that one. Our No Surrender record, our latest one, we took all the time because COVID happened, and so we took even more time and swapped out some songs. And I don't want to toot our own horn, but I feel like it's gonna be hard to outdo that one because I just feel like top to bottom. Normally, you get an album and you're like 6 out of 10 songs I like, some are just filler, but that one I can listen to all of them. Like I don't know, it's gonna be hard to top, but it'll be good. We'll have a good time. And we won't rush anything. We'll make sure that everything's good and ready to go for release.
That's incredible. And I mean, as a creator, maybe not for music per se, but a photographer and videographer. Well, I say videographer loosely. I'm like a point and shoot guy. I make YouTube videos. I don't really do cinema stuff, but I digress. Sometimes when you go back and look through your work, like you just know before people even get to listen to it what you like and what you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that feeling. I mean, I'm sure it feels like when you release it, it's like I feel really good about this one. Yeah. And even the worship song, like I think I was like 6 or 7 out of 10 songs in, and I had already deemed it like album of the year for me. And I hadn't even listened to like the final four yet. When I got to, I guess I didn't put two and two together that, what's the name of the song? I could sing it in my head. Mosaic MSC.
Tremble.
Yeah, Tremble. When you get to Tremble, I guess I didn't put two and two together that was her song. Because, you just don't think that bridge would cross in Christian rock. And I was like, oh, how are they going to pull this one off? I'm intrigued. And it's beautiful. It is. It really is. And they play it at every show. Is that the last song you guys do at every show?
Yeah,
too?
all this year we've closed out with Tremble, and just because it does, it's like a soft song, but the way it builds, and then it's just like you get everybody in the crowd is just singing Jesus, like, and just proclaiming His love and power. And then we have a cool like outro that kind of just a cool send off to people. So yeah, we've been closing with that, and it's been awesome.
Amazing. And again, like, behold the beloved. Literally, the last thing you guys were able to do this year is proclaim the name of Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that is a song I always loved, even the original version. So
Same.
Kudos to you for, I feel like sometimes you can, I mean, this isn't anyone in specific, but sometimes you can try and cover a soft song in a rock way, and it just doesn't work well. So the way you guys were able to pull that off, I mean, independently, you guys wrote that on your, rewrote it at least.
Yeah,
that takes a lot of talent.
The instruments. Thanks, man.
Takes
Appreciate
a lot of
that.
But okay. So was there ever a point during this whole process, like whether it be on your own or as a band, where you guys just felt like throwing in the towel? And if you did, like, how'd you guys get through that?
Wow. I feel like all of us are different. I can't speak for all the guys, but I know sometimes during the busier season, like busier part of season, like these past 2 months have been kind of hard on us because we're away from our families a lot. And then when we're not on the road, we have all full-time jobs. So then we come home just to be away Monday through Friday for most of the day anyway. So it sometimes takes a toll, and you're like, man, like, is this really worth it? But I think all the guys, we always check ourselves to make sure that we're staying in because it's what God has called us to, and not just because we want to be in a rock band. And we know that there's sacrifice in it. But there's sacrifice in anything you do, and life's not going to be easy. For me personally, I feel like the off season is the easiest time for me to want to throw in the towel. That and like songwriting time, because I hate trying to get 5 guys to agree on something. But no, like during the off season, which normally our off season has in the past 3 years gotten shorter and shorter. Like normally off season for us is like October to June, and then now lately it's been December to February. During that time, it's like you're not doing shows, so you're like, just living life normally. I mean, obviously we still have practices every week, and we write music, but on the weekends you're with your family, you get to do stuff, you get to relax. So then in those moments, it's like, man, I could get used to this. Like, I love this. But then you start shows and you're like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So like your eternal thoughts and your eternal heart and your own desires during the off scene is like, this is great. Like, this is life. And then shows start and God's like, yeah, but I got this for you. And then you get that new passion and new fire going on. So yeah, everybody's different, but you just keep as long as we keep knowing that what we're doing is not for us. We know once it's time to hang up, throw the towel, that God will close all the doors and He'll make it impossible or something. But right now it's like everything is so possible, and it's hard, but it's not, it's not out of the question. Like sometimes finances get rough, but then we get blessed by fans or another venue or extra shows and to keep things going and to pay us for our time that sometimes we have to take off work. And all our families are fed and all the mortgage and rent is paid, and you just keep on going.
That is amazing. I mean, I'll have more to tell you off air, but for now, what I can tell you is, for those of you listening to the show consistently, you already know what I'm going to bring up. I'll keep it short and sweet. I made the mistake of leaving my job this summer because I let those intrusive thoughts win. I got burnt out. If you don't know, I'm a forklift driver, and I've been doing it for a year. And when you do a forklift job for a year, you keep on hearing them horns beep all day. You keep on hearing the motors. You do the same thing Monday through Thursday. Thankfully, I work 4 days a week, but that burnout can get taxing. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're in a band or you're a forklift driver like me. It doesn't matter what you do. I think we all face those moments, and it really just becomes. I think that's when you have to ask Jesus for wisdom. Like, how do you want me to go about this? Obviously, the wisdom of God would be keep your job. Don't quit until you have something else lined up. I let my intrusive thoughts win, and I paid the consequences for it big time. You, however, have chosen, obviously, to not only pursue your calling with your family and your job, but the music. And it's evident because you guys are still playing shows. You guys are still putting out music. And, I think there's this beautiful thing when we literally what Trenches is about is literally putting on the armor and fighting the battle for Christ and living a life for Him. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we don't know the answers, and that's okay. You just got to suit up and go out there anyway. And
and sometimes when you're in it, it's not what you would hope or envision, but like God kind of reveals something. We actually just had that this past weekend. Like 2 weekends ago, we were in Germany playing in front of 1,500 plus people who knew all our songs and sang it as loud as we ever heard it. And we came back and we did they call it like a metal church. It was basically kind of a church service, but they used us for like worship in the beginning, and then we did original stuff at the end. And we walked into this small church, and 25 people showed up. And we always pray before, and we're like, you know what, hey, we always say it doesn't matter how many people in the room. Like God, even if it's just one person, that's why we do what we do. So let's own up to that. And we found out that night, like there was a gentleman there who is just going through addictions and other things that is really struggling with him. And he actually came forward for prayer when we asked for kind of an altar call prayer thingy. And we got to pray with him for a while and really saw a change in him. And we got in the bus and we're like, it doesn't matter how many people are in that room. We know that we were supposed to be here for that one person. Even though it sucks as a musician, you want hundreds of people in front of you. Like you got to know it, go back to your why, like why we do this. And it was just a beautiful thing that God like revealed to us. Like I'll like bless you and have a bunch of people in front of you so you can hear, like, just, I don't know, not to pedestal us, but like to encourage us. When there's a lot of people like singing with you, it's encouraging. It's awesome. It's a great feeling. But like, if we can be in those moments, to be faithful in the times when there's 25, 30 people, knowing that there's a reason still for those shows, and that those people that, they need the love of Christ too. They need prayer as well. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And to add on to that, first I'll just look at it, not just your band, but from a generalized scope. I made a couple mentions of the struggling factor of the Christian rock scene, and that's not me knocking any bands. It's just me as a music critic objectively looking at the scene where it was 10, 15, 20 years ago versus now. And I mean,
it's the market.
It's not there, and the market's changed, and that's a fact. We can't change facts. But one thing that I love about this whole process is, though the market has changed, the amount of people that, like, majority could care less if Christian rock is happening or not right now, changed. But God didn't. And God obviously still uses all of these bands to reach people just like that. And what really blows my mind is I don't. Okay, let me give a little insight from my life. It costs me enough just to maintain my camera gear and to be able to simply get off work and travel somewhere to get content.
Mm-hmm.
That alone, that and taking care of my own place, it doesn't really stress me out, but it kind of will make you pull your hair a little bit. Now, let's talk about like guitars. It doesn't matter if you're a band your size or if you're, up to Disciples size. I mean, you've got a significant amount of gear traveling around that you have to pay for. You have to pay for the venue, you have to pay for the travel. And when you have only 25 people showing up, which by the way, we didn't make mention of this yet, a good chunk of these shows typically end up being free to where people can come in and just be ministered to. It blows my mind that what is left of the scene is able to stay alive because of the grace of God, and it is able to minister to people just like that. And I would argue that the smaller crowds opens the door for people to actually step up and say, hey, I need prayer, or I need Jesus in my life. What do I need to do? And that's when the bands can literally be witnesses and ministers. And that is such a cool thing where sometimes even as a critic, I have to step back and be like, okay, just because some of the bands, I don't like the way they produce the songs, or I'm not liking the direction of certain things, I have to be like, okay, the live shows are still there. They still sound great live. The people are still getting witnessed to. It's a beautiful thing. And if anyone from the Christian rock scene is listening, let that not slip our minds. That's the most important thing. I don't think either of us two can overstate it. We love Jesus, and that's what we're both here for. I'm a photographer, you're a musician, but we're all doing it for one reason. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Not that anyone asked, but
no, it's good. It's good.
Okay, so the rest of it is going to be just kind of, I don't want to say like 20 Q, but just some random questions for fun. The first one was shoot.
No, I meant shoot. Like, go for it.
Oh my goodness. I was like, what? So, when people come to a Behold the Beloved show, what should they expect?
High energy, if I'm not tired. No, high energy, biblical lyrics. Like, we always say, our music, there's no gray area. You won't listen to the song and be like, are they talking about their girlfriend or are they talking about Jesus? There's some Christian bands out there who lean more to try to sound edgy and have like a hit song that sounds dope, but fall away from like, is all your lyrics like 100% true or clear about who you're talking to? And we will throw that we'll throw that away. Be like, we know it's going to sound great. It might not be like the world hit and hit number one, but we know that at least the lyrics are 100% biblically true and clear, and you know who we're talking about. And then I think coming to a show, you will see that we are just 5 regular guys with a calling. We're not better than anybody or anything like that. We're just 5 guys who feel like God is called to do music, and we got together, and that's what we're doing. Anybody can do what we're doing if that's their calling, or they're doing it in their own way and what God has called them to do. We're not famous. We're not people to, like, I don't know. I don't want to say model after, but we're not like special. And not to downplay it, and I don't want this to be clipped and said wrong, but John Cooper, Kevin Young, all these people, they're not special, more special than anybody else either. They're doing the same thing we are, that they're just walking in God's calling. At their abilities, 100% they're better than me, but it doesn't matter. Like, I'm where I'm supposed to be, they're where they're supposed to be. I can get better. They're going to grow old and get worse, but you can expect to have fun and just get to know us and hang out. That's for sure.
And that's, the day for context, when I showed up early to that second show I was referring to way earlier at the beginning of the context, it's when I really got to actually get to know you guys a bit more, as opposed to just shaking hands and see you next week,
Yeah.
Beyond just the camera guy, we talked, got to know each other a little bit, and I mean, I can attest to this. Like, I had no clue that I was going to be showing up because I was told to show up early to help set up lights because the goal was going to be get more lighting than last week because I was going to be partnering with Radio U to, for lack of a better word, showcase that concert. And, you know, for me, there was a little bit of pressure, but I just walked in with the Lord on my side and just trusted his plan. And I was shocked that the lights were already set up and they had plenty of extra lights for that show, by the way. And I ended up getting treated to pizza with the guys backstage, and not just your band, but the Protest and Marshall and Donovan I've known for years. So it was nice catching up with them. And it's just there's not many words to describe it. It's just one of those things where you don't want to set yourself apart from the world. Or you do, because we're Christians. But what I mean by that is you don't want your music not to reach people, but at the same time, it is special that you get to be that intimate.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I can attest to every one of those words. It is an experience, and I hope you guys all get to experience and behold the Beloved concert, even if they're opening for another band, because the 2 shows I went to, they were the first of 3, and they were still fantastic.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and that's why I love this genre. Like, I feel like we can hang out and we can create music that glorifies God. We can create music that brings hope to people who know who God is and bring hope to his church. And we can also encourage those and bring the love of Christ to people who don't know who he is. We can go into those scenes and do that. We've played at venues that basically have like a bar in the corner. You know what I mean? We can play anywhere and bring the gospel. And I like that over like CCM, like they have incredible musicians and all that stuff, but like they're making music for radio and for church, and it's hard for a person who doesn't know who Christ is to like, walk into that kind of show or hear that on the radio. I mean, God can work through anything, and God could definitely use those words, but yeah, we get this special opportunity to do what we do for all people of all walks of life. And connect with them on a different level.
Yeah, and I'd just be overstating it if I said it again, but that's it. That is the truth. So a couple more, actually more than a couple. I came prepared. So what would be your favorite song thus far that you've recorded or put out, whatever?
Man, I would have 2. I have 3. Playing with Fire means a lot lyrically, just because of my backstory of going through a lot of fires that consume my life, that the enemy kind of grabbed hold of me, and with partying and drugs and all those things, and then God like really saving me from that. Playing with Fire definitely talks 100% of my testimony. Abandoned Ship, though, I feel like it overall, if you listen to it as a song, just fills out and feels like a very complete song. It has cool little ditties, has riffs, has a little solo. It features a lot of things, but it feels like a complete full song without gaps. And that has an incredible, twist to it, that it's a song that it's basically Christ speaking to us and telling us to rely on him. But personally, also, I kind of like doing Rescue Me to just feature a part of my voice that I don't get to feature a lot, which is some of like that just big holdouts, the non-rasp, some of the falsetto. So it was kind of nice to do, slow it down a little bit.
So Rescue Me specifically, that song, when I first heard it, blew me out. Like, it blew me away. Because I know most people in Christian rock like the ballads too, but I know a handful that don't. Like, it has to be like thrash and bash or they don't like it. And I tell you what, I heard that song and I was like, it has been a very long time since I've heard a Christian rock band not only put out such a good record, but put out a song that beautiful but rich at the same time, because it's about Jesus, and it was just so well done. And I couldn't, the vocal performance on it was great. The music was great. It's just, It's that good, people. You've got to give this album a chance, even if you're not into Christian rock. Good answers. I guess so. This next question is kind of similar, but it's more about live performance. So, what's your favorite songs to perform? I'm guessing "Rescue Me" is one of them.
We will actually perform "Rescue Me" a lot. There's been a couple times we put it in the middle after a talk, but like live, sometimes we don't have that much time either. So you want to give the people what they want to hear a lot, like some of the faster stuff. But live lately, I've been really liking Silver and Gold. We've done a live, and we've just been putting some fun things in there. Clench Fist, 110%. I love Clench Fist live. It really gets the crowd going. They know what we're talking about, and everybody's singing on the same page. It's cool. Yeah. I can tell you one that I don't like doing live, and that's Trenches, because I wasn't smart in thinking of the key that we had it in. And it's kind of a middle fast song. So like we always put it like at the top 3 songs. So after I'm already winded, now I have to belt out the highest song that we have. And sometimes I miss, and sometimes I hate that.
I'll tell you what, I've seen him do it twice. I liked it. I don't remember if you missed it or not. But you're human, and it's expected. Sometimes you just miss, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you know, all hatred aside, I do love that song a lot. One of the songs I was looking forward to hearing, and heck, I mean, camera in hand both weeks. I think I was equally excited once you guys started playing. Playing with Fire, I think musically is probably my favorite.
Okay.
And I think it's just because that riff is so unique. It's been a while. Most Christian rock is like or something similar to that. You don't really have that lick that starts out the song.
Yeah.
And you kind of build off of that energy that you start with the first 2 seconds of the song. And musically it's great. Theologically it's great. I mean, it's and if you're listening and you don't know what we're talking about, I'm telling you again, you just gotta listen. That way you can know. Get in the know, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a potential guess, surprisingly, to this answer, but I'm going to ask the question first.
Okay.
What is your favorite tour memory?
Oh, man.
Can I guess first?
I think your guess is going to be the winner, so go for it.
Was it flexing on the protest on the final night of the... So, this is a great story. So the venue we played at was in Logan, Ohio. It was some sort of event center. It's indoor. It's not very big, but it's about the size of a gymnasium, even though it's not one.
Mm-hmm.
And Jareb, the protest drummer, halfway through, I want to say it was after your set, he came up and talked to me. And I don't know if you remember this, but there was like a spot where all the lights were, in the back of the room, and there was a little spiral staircase to get up there.
Yeah, I remember that.
So it's so funny because, I decided, all right, well, this set's already pretty much over with Relentless Flood, but I went up there, took some up there, went down, caught the first half of the protest photos, down on the ground, and then the last couple songs I went up. And when I went up there, that's when I got my new lens on there, and I was able to zoom pretty close and get some shots from the roof, which they turned out fantastic. And what I was not, this might be a funny perspective for you. I was really nervous because that was my girlfriend's first Christian rock show. And if you guys don't know the protest, they do a little screaming, especially on their closing song, Legacy. And I did not show her that song for a reason, because I did not want to scare her away from coming to the concert. So I'm up here. I'm nervous because, okay, it's the final song. I want to get these shots as best as I can from the roof. I'm also paranoid what my girlfriend, or at the time, just my date was thinking. And then my next thought was, what in the world are these knuckleheads doing? I see the whole Behold the Beloved band just come out and start, like, no funny costumes or anything. They're just flexing like they're Macho Man on stage and just stealing the show. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I wish I gotta look. I don't remember if I got a video of it because I had the wrong lens on to have good video. So if I did, it's gonna be like really shaky because it's zoomed in. But oh man, if looks could kill, that was a great scene. So hey, I'm glad I guessed it right.
Yeah, that was definitely the highlight, because we always talked about it, because we've seen protests like do that to other people, like do a last show prank on Disciple and on other. So
this is crazy. I was there for that one too.
Okay, yeah.
So the last show of the Rise of the Radicals tour, when they dressed up as like Catholic
choir boys,
choir boys, yeah. I saw that. I have a picture of Adam and Jereb standing next to each other in their suits.
Yeah. So we know they do pranks. We know that's a thing. And I just told the guys, I was like, all right, Legacy's the last one. And he just like growls like towards the end. I'm like, let's all like go out there, just roll up our sleeves and just like, because they're also gym freaks, like Jereb and Josh, and those guys got arms for days. So we got the Relentless Flood guys in, except for Donovan. He was doing lights, and we all got side stage, and we waited, and we just ran out there and went for it. And I was like, I watched that video back, and I laugh and I have fun. I'm like, bro, I got some serious shoulders. I was like, I'm just like watching me. I'm like, yeah, I got some shoulders.
Oh gosh,
that was a good memory.
I'm glad someone caught it on video, because usually I'm on that stuff, but I was so focused on photos I really didn't give it two thoughts. But all right, next question. You got a dream tour?
Dream tour?
Yeah,
I do. A dream tour. In other words, a legit dream tour that would never happen, because one of the bands that I would always want to just play one show with, which we're trying to do. Maybe we might be able to do one show in the next 5 years, if God allows it. But a tour is a little different. But I would love it to be like us, Disciple, Pillar. Like, how many? I mean, normally you can only take 3 on a tour. But, I don't know. Any tour that involves us with Disciple or Cutlass is like dream tours.
Seen all those bands besides Pillar, and they're all fantastic. Pillar, if Pillar came back, I might cry. I mean, that.
Yeah, one of those I've actually been in contact with their bass player, and they're trying to maybe in the next year do like select festivals, select shows, but it's like up in the air. So a tour, They all have families and lives that they can't do that, but they're going to try to at least put in a show here and there.
Well, all right. Hopefully that'll happen. And I hope that's somewhere within an 8-hour radius. I will take all 4. I will be there. If Pillar is playing music, I will be there.
Let's go, yeah.
Because I will be in the front row just slamming my neck to Front Line. That is my favorite song of theirs.
Same.
Such a good song. But, oh, man. Rabbit Trails, man. So, I know we've kind of hashed on this all night long, but, back to the spiritual side of things. What's the key to maintaining the ministry, amongst this whole process? What, is it just staying on the word daily, or?
Yeah, it's staying out of your own way. It's easy to go through this and, go through like the days where you have 600, 700, some like festivals or like some shows that we do. They're far between, but when you get a couple hundred, to know that it's nothing that you do. It's really a heart check all the time, making sure you're doing it for the right reasons. You're not taking any glory for yourself. And to push forward, like to not get lazy about it either. It's easy to sit back and be like, oh, this is God's thing, so God will open things up. Well, you got to put some effort towards it too. It's the same thing with your relationship. Like you can say, I believe in Christ, but you have to put the work in to have an actual relationship to see like the fruit of his love in your life. So yeah, discipline and just making sure that you're doing it for the right reasons for him. And that's the only way you can balance it out. If you don't do it that way, you're going to turn into one of those bands who just kind of fall apart or nothing happens, or you're going to work extra because you don't have the full blessing that God's putting on you because you're taking for yourself. So all those are cliche answers, but that's legit what it is. That's the only reason why we're 5 PA boys that have no business playing in the places that we're playing with the bands that we're playing. And we are, and we're, I mean, like we said, like, yeah, it's a business that's kind of not as popular and it's not financially great for us. But yet we're still being blessed enough financially to create our whole stage stuff, get all our lighting, get all that kind of stuff done, pay the gas in our bus, get the bus, just random doors that God opens and takes care of. So we know we're in the right, and we know if keep doing what we're doing, and that kind of stuff will keep happening.
Amen. That is, I'll tell you, this whole season is probably the most in-depth, honest answer we've got. But I mean, we appreciate it. I mean, that's what it is, putting it all out there, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know you hinted at that one show, and I'm sure being in a band, and we talked about small settings allow the door for more, I don't want to say more ministry, I mean, obviously, but it allows you to actually understand how people were ministered to more. It's not like we planted the seeds and the Lord's going to grow it and on to the next show. You actually sometimes get to see those harvests right before your eyes. Do you have any like big examples of that speak out to you from doing this business?
I mean, I think we're different from other bands, and I think right now it's easy for us to be different because we're not like Disciple or Skillet to where you have hundreds of thousands of people following you. Like, we're still in the like thousands of people who know we are. So we have the privilege of right now, even if when we go to shows and we see that person and we see salvation happen right there, we see life change happen right there. We have the privilege to then be like, hey, here's our email or here's our messenger. Like, stay in contact with us. Let us know. Like, we're going to keep praying with you. My wife is our manager in her office. We have a huge prayer board. And so when people that we meet have something they're going through, we get their name, we put it up on the board, and us as a family, and sometimes in cases as the band, we pray for these people throughout the week. It's just, that's the ministry part that we love to do. So I can't like put my finger on like one other example because it just happens. But I can say like one thing that I love that we do is we try to be more personable. Like, we know people and we check in on people message us, and it's Side Bunny Trail, and I guess kind of plug, but that kind of is what created what we also have a women's ministry, part of our band ministry that my wife runs called My Beloved. And the way that happened was my wife is our merch person, lady, whatever you want to call her. She runs the merch at all the shows basically. And she started noticing that she gets to talk with so many people. And so many people, instead of like, because the line sometimes is long, that they, instead of coming and talk to us, they kind of just share their story with her. And she got to know some incredible women and hear some of their stories that were like, we have a real opportunity here to create a ministry that builds a community of women who love Christ or want to grow deeper in Christ. And she has a heart for women's ministry. So we launched like a year and a half ago, My Beloved, women's ministry that she runs, and it's just a community of women who have gone to our shows, who met us that way, met Kelly, and that they pray for one another. She does Zoom calls, she does Bible studies, and then a retreat. Actually, in 2 weeks they're finishing the book study they're doing and doing a women's retreat. So they just go out and hang out. So that's been just really awesome to see more ministry. Like, we're not blowing smoke. We're not using the word ministry just to be labeled something so people go, oh, that's awesome. Like, that's legit our heart. Like, we are a band, but ministry is legit why we're where we are, and that comes first. And we saw an opportunity to build onto that, and we're going to continue to look for stuff like that if God puts it in our lap. So yeah, it's again, can't point out one thing, but it is an honor and a blessing to be able to put in those situations to witness stuff like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. First thing I'm going to do in this call ends is actually go follow that page because that is very awesome. And I know that even just a simple follow these days can help maybe spark an algorithm. So literally anything goes these days with social media. But I mean, wow. I mean, my jaw was already dropped with just the music quality in your shows, but learning all this stuff tonight, like,
No.
For such a small band in the grand scheme of things, you guys are really, really doing. You guys are kind of leading the pack with the ministry, in my opinion, with the music industry. I mean, you guys do so much work, and it doesn't go unnoticed.
Thanks, man.
All right, so here's a question that has pretty much nothing to do with anything we talked about this whole entire episode. But it is the $1 million question because we are a roller coaster and theme park based ministry.
Oh dear.
It's simple. Do you like roller coasters?
No.
And it's so funny because both musicians we've had on this season said no.
Oh, cool. Because we're control freaks.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I just, if, like, legit. It comes with the same territory with heights and airplanes. If I'm in control, probably be fine. But knowing that I'm not in control and that some other dude cranked that bolt with a machine and some guy's pressing a button who's 16 years old to send me, forget it. And how many times those things break down? And like just a lap bar holding no, forget it.
And that is fine. And, ministry is still done with or without roller coasters. That's the beautiful part. It's just, it's always fun asking that question. And that's kind of why it's kind of like Donnie and I like branching out to non-enthusiasts, aka roller coaster people, is because we get, I don't want to say a whole nother perspective of life, but you'd be surprised that most coaster enthusiasts have a very similar, thought process with life. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting when you hear other thought processes and how other people do life and things, and it's neat. But last question, it's pretty simple. I think it's a great way to go. What would your message be to anyone listening, whether they know Jesus or not, or whatever walk of life they're in?
Oh, man. You said earlier to me when we were talking about a record, you said not to rush it. And I would use that as an encouragement tool to tell anybody when it comes to knowing who God is or building your relationship, to not rush it. I feel like if you don't know who he is and you show up to a venue or a church service or anything, and they're like, if you don't know who God is, like, this is your time to step forward. Making those steps forward to accept Christ there when you yourself don't 100% want it yet or believe it, but you're rushing that, is not healthy and it's not good for you. So starting from a person like that to a person who knows who Christ is and building a relationship, like, don't rush it. Don't feel like you need to go from new believer to a pastor of a church right away. Like, it's a relationship. It's a build. You don't meet somebody and then propose to them that day, like 2 hours later, and then get married the next day. It's a relationship. So I would say from any part of life, whether you don't know who Christ is to you do it, or you're a seasoned vet, to not rush it and just to take life one step at a time, take your relationship with Christ one step at a time, and allow him to work in you. Like, little by little, make new changes in your life. Little by little, like, dig into the word. Little by little, take what you learn in the word, apply it to your life, so you can see it changing. If you take all of it at once, you're not going to see a big change, because the change that happens will be some little thing, but you tried this. But if you do little steps, then you'll see little step, you'll see the change. Little step, you'll see the change, and you will see yourself building. And I think that's more encouraging to somebody trying to build a relationship, to see what you're doing and doing the walk the whole way through. So yeah, take your time, follow your heart, do what you believe is right in the times that you want it. Make sure it's about you wanting it, and you're not making any decisions because of somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, as a photographer, I mean, God's honest truth. If I could snap my fingers, I'd quit being a forklift driver and do all this professionally. It's a really hard market to get into. Like, I would argue maybe even more difficult than Christian rock because there's so many photographers out there.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult. But, that even speaks to me. Just trust the process, be patient, know that you're at where you're at for a reason, and God didn't make any mistakes doing so. And, yeah, that's something I think we all can take away from.
Us as a band, we go through that too. Like, would it be great if all 5 of us could quit our job and just do this full time? Absolutely. Will it happen? No. Like, it's not feasible for us to be able to support our families and do this. But can we see little changes? Can we see maybe one of us go part time to put more time into the band to reach more? Can we see us implement Patreon next year and maybe give our fans and supporters more content? And then they support us more financially. Like, can we make certain steps? And then that will allow us to do more and to reach more people. So little steps here and there, and see what happens.
Yeah, that's baby steps. That's something even me and my girlfriend say time to time, whatever it may be. We just like, it's all right, breathe, baby steps, baby steps.
There's no rush.
Sean, obviously, your band is called Behold the Beloved, but where can we find you if people want to reach out? And obviously, the music is everywhere. I think y'all should go to the live concerts if you can, buy the CDs at the show, or go on this thing called iTunes. I know it's kind of a thing of the past, but if you really want to help a band out, you buy their music, don't stream it. It will help them out tremendously. And, where can we find you?
Like you said, anywhere you find music, obviously, like you said, buying our music helps us a lot. But if you stream it on Spotify, that helps pennies here and there add up. But we have our website, www.beholdthebelovedmusic.com, and on there we have a merch store. We got a couple little things. You can find dates. We have our bands in town, and you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram, Behold the Bee. We are not the best at social media. Me and my wife run the social media, but we do what we can. So you can find any information at those stuff. And check out our stuff. Share it with a friend. Come to a show. Just try it once. We're not going to scream your ear off because we don't scream at all. But we like to have fun. So
that is one other thing I would say to the non-rockers. They don't scream. The other bands they play with, they might. They might not, but these guys don't. They're pretty tame for rock.
Yeah.
It's a good mix.
Thanks, man.
Sean, it was such an honor having you on. I had fun with this podcast, man. I mean, I'm looking at the clock now, other than, a little gaffe at the beginning. I think we're at 1 hour and 25 minutes of recording.
Yeah.
So
I like this. Just hanging
lots
out.
of ground to be covered, and I'm sure we could have covered more, but I think we'll call it there for the first episode with Sean. And man, I'm almost out of words. Just what God's doing with your ministry.
Well, thanks, man. I'm excited to see what God's going to do with you guys and with your ministry. And thank you for what you do, and thank you for your time. It's things like these and moments like these to where you guys really help out us. Like you yourself, your photography helps us out. It gives us content to share on our social media. Because we can't do both. And you do a great job at that. But also stuff like this allows people to just hear a different side. And we appreciate you a lot. Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't know how Donnie likes to wrap up his main segments, but I'm just going to say thank you guys for listening to our main segment. And I'm sure Donnie will have a nice little monologue for you guys after the episode. So thank you guys, and we're going to say goodbye to Sean.
Later. See ya.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Ride of Your Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, consider leaving a review or ranking on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people with the good news of Jesus Christ, as well as brings up more discussion on all things coasters and parks. Stay connected with the ROYL fam through our website, rideyourlifeministries.com, as well on social media at Ride of Your Life Ministries on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Also, be sure to check out our merch store, rideofyourlifeshop.com, for some awesome Royal merch. We hope you all have a great week, and we look forward to the next episode next Monday. God bless. We hope to see you all in the parks. Peace!